Morning Year 6, so it's Friday the 5th of March and we're continuing with our fourth sentence stacking lesson. We didn't do one yesterday because of World Book Day, so we're on to lesson 4 of our sentence stacking today. So our success criteria today, we're going to be thinking about quotes again. We are going to be using data and brackets, and we're going to be using a rhetorical question. So today we're thinking about the community, and we're thinking about them agreeing that screen use is making children lazy. So remember, that's our question, is screen use making children lazy? And today the community are going to agree with this. So I want you to just jot down, what qualities do you think make a good parent? And then here are some examples if you're a little bit stuck. I've got there a caring, loving, protective, nurturing, thoughtful, kind and considerate. So if you want to add any of those to your list, you can do. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to interview a parent or carer, and I want you to ask them to express their fears about the negative effects of screen time on their children. If you haven't got anybody who you could ask this, if they're working, you could just make it up, just have a think yourself and think about what the negative effects of screen time on children are. So here I'm going to model to you my quote. The first part on here is the provided sentence. That means I'm giving you that sentence. You can copy that to introduce this section of your writing. So that says, many other stakeholders feel strongly about this issue, especially parents. Then the next bit is the bit you're going to change and put in your own ideas. So look at my pun here for the parents. Mona Watts, who typifies the parent voice, says, as a conscientious and caring parent, I'm extremely concerned that overexposure to screens is damaging my child's health. So now we're going to do the enable stage, and this is going to enable you to write your own sentence. So your section should include the provided sentence, so you just copy that bit down, and then you need to write a direct quote with 2 positive adjectives for a good parent. So look at your list and what 2 adjectives could you use. So this is chunk 2 and we're going to initiate our ideas again. We're thinking about data and brackets this time. So in 5 to 16-year-olds in the UK, average screen time is 6.3 hours, so that is 26% of the day. I want you to think about how else could we describe this amount of time using brackets. So think about that amount of time, 6.3 hours, 26% of the day. How could you describe that using brackets? And then here are my examples of that. So I've said, instead of saying that, I could say a significant part of the day, because 26% of the day is quite a lot. Far too much of their spare time, so 6.3 hours is a lot of your spare time. The equivalent of another school day. So you're in school for just over 6 hours. So that's an equivalent to another school day. So those are different ways which we could describe that amount of time. So here's my model of chunk 2. So look for my data and look for my brackets. A recent BBC report states that children are spending 6 hours or more on screens every day, half of their total waking time. So to enable you to write this sentence, you need to use some data on screen use, and you need to use extra information about what proportion of the day or week this represents using brackets. So we're on to chunk 3, the last section of today. We're going to initiate and we're going to be thinking about using rhetorical question. So I want you to make a list of all the question openers, so all the different words that can start a question, and just write them down. So you'll have seen my examples in the last slide. What I'd like you to do now is list some rhetorical questions that you could use to make a point about this worrying statistic. Okay, so the amount of time that children are spending on screen time, what rhetorical question could you use to show that it's worrying? So here are some examples that I've come up with. So I've got, how can we sit back and let this happen? How can we begin to reverse this worrying trend? Do we care enough about children's well-being? Are we sleepwalking towards a mental health time bomb? So you might want to add some of those if you can't think of your own. So you'll have seen my example in the previous slide, how I modelled the rhetorical question that I was going to use, and I used the question mark at the end. So now, to enable you to write your own, you're going to pose a rhetorical question that suggests more needs to be done about worrying data. If you did write some of my examples down from slide 17, just make sure that you slightly change them for yourself so that you're not just copying ideas that I've given you. Once you've done that, you can upload your work. We will be continuing with this next week once you are back in school. So please bring with you on Monday all the writing that you've been doing at home.